Hey guys, RanterInShades here, exercising my First Amendment rights stream style. And this stream is going to be a lot like the stream that I did about the punk rock MBA genre tier list. This is a idea I had for a series of streams that I wanted to do of tier lists of the Guitar Hero soundtracks. I don't think I'm going to be doing like all of them. I'm only going to be doing the ones that I own and or am passionate about. So I'm probably only just going to be doing just the one and just do one per stream. So with that in mind, let's transition over to the GIMP scene, where we have a blank tier list. There isn't really any specific order that I'm going to be going in for this. It's just ordered alphabetically by the file name, because I didn't come up with new file names for the images that I'm going to use. So let's just jump right into it, as they say. So the first song that we got on here is Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. A song in, wait, fuck, hold on. This is supposed to be locked before I resize it so y'all can see it. Alright, so, this is a song in the second tier in the first game, and it's a pretty fun song, really catchy. Those of you that have been watching me for a long time will probably remember me using this song in the collab that me and the Random Gangsta did on one Muck Fetalcore, where there's a montage of us putting on Avenged Sevenfold shirts and whatnot, which is like really corny and cheesy and whatnot. But I don't know, the song itself is kind of cheesy, but I've always thought it had a bit of a charm to it. So I think the song is pretty good. So where am I going to rank it? First, let me come up with a size for this. A little smaller. I'm going to put this in the... I'm going to put it in the 8 here. It's fun. Nothing wrong with vinyl. Next, we have Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. I almost said Davy Bowie, which I'm sure some people probably call him. Wouldn't say I like this one as much as Sharp Dressed Man. I also wouldn't go as far as to say I'm majorly huge into David Bowie. I mean, I respect him as an artist. He does have some good material. I'm just not someone that goes like super all out with Bowie, but this is a song I would consider one of my general favorites if you asked me for like my favorite David Bowie songs. My actual favorite from him would be Rock and Roll With Me from Diamond Dogs. So I'm going to put this in the B tier. I feel like ZZ Top is cheesy, but it's fun cheesy, but not in an ironic sense. Yeah, and going along with that, you know, Billy Gibbons is a good guitarist. I've always thought he was like the talent of the band, but that's kind of a given and whatnot. I mean, ZZ Top is going to come up again in a future one of these streams. Next, we got Thunderkiss 65 by White Zombie, the song that was my exposure to them. Well, then again, you know, my exposure to most of these bands was in this game. I'm also not a massive David Bowie fan, but he's got some pretty damn good ones. Young Americans, Heroes, Somebody Up There Like Me, Fame, etc. This song, I remember being kind of fun in the game. Got really groovy, catchy riff. I always liked that. I always liked the lead work in here. I always thought that was pretty cool and pretty flashy and all that. White Zombie are definitely a band that I would consider a favorite as far as industrial metal goes and whatnot. Rob Zombie I've always found to be a very charismatic and unique frontman. This is a very entertaining song of White Zombie's. It might be my favorite. I'm not too sure. Wouldn't say I'm a major White Zombie fan at that, but I like this song fine. So bring it down to 121. And we'll put this in the A tier. Next, what is this? Oh, yeah. Fat Lip by Sum 41, baby. I love this. Very, very, very much. I thought the song ruled in the game. Thought it was fun as crap. And it's been fun as crap to listen to ever since then. You can't go wrong with this. It's not my favorite from Sum 41. That would go to a song on Does This Look Infected called Billy Spleen. It's got a pretty cool... got a pretty cool riff there. But yeah, you really can't go wrong with freaking Fat Lip. It's a fun song, fun to sing along to. They were fun to see live on fucking Halloween last year. Made for great Halloween plans, where instead of actually having normal Halloween plans, I go out as an angsty pop punk kid who doesn't want to waste his time and become another casualty of society. So yeah, love this very much. Sum 41, after all, are my third favorite pop punk band after Bayside and State Champs, and this song is definitely a big part of why they are very special. S tier for sure. I mean, it's skate punk meets thrash by the Sums. Yeah, I suppose. They've definitely gotten thrashier over time. Definitely more metal as the albums go. They've gotten, like, heavier with each album, if you notice. Like, that's something I've noticed about, like, all of their albums. It's always heavier than the last. Next, Texas Flood by Stevie Ray Vaughan. This song is another one of my favorites in the game. Like, for a while it was my actual favorite in the game. Like, one thing about 11-year-old Shades or 12-year-old Shades is, even at that young of an age, I was a sucker for lengthy guitar solos, and that was a big selling point for me with this song. Like, pretty much all of the playing in this song is just soloing over just a kind of slow-moving bass line and the drums going... I always really liked blues songs that have that format. One other weird thing, though, about this song is that since licensing rights were kind of different early on in the franchise's history, and all the songs in the first game were covers, I remember finding it really weird when I listened to the original recording how Stevie Ray Vaughan's voice sounded nothing like the singer in the game. His real voice is like, well, there's a flooding down in Texas, where in the game it kind of sounds like a surfer dude. Well, there's a flooding down in Texas. That's what it kind of sounded like. I found that kind of funny. But yeah, I love this. 121. Also a definite S tier. Next, we got everybody's favorite, Smoke on the Goddamn Water. The song that everybody that's touched a guitar knows how to play, even if they don't really know how to play guitar. Yes, I have gotten kind of soured on this song as the years went on, but honestly, what's important to note is, you know, for as much as this song might have kind of soured on you, Deep Purple are actually a very, very good band. Ritchie Blackmore is an excellent guitarist. The lineup on the album this comes from, Machine Head, the lineup there is just absolutely excellent. Ian Gillan, great vocalist. John Lord, may God rest his soul, very good keyboardist. Ian Pace is kind of a monster on the kit. And then you got Roger Glover on bass. Even when Ian Gillan left and they got David Coverdale singing on Burn and Stormbringer, even he sounded good with them. He would then, of course, leave and form Whitesnake. And after, I think, the next album after that is when Ritchie Blackmore formed Rainbow. Just all three of these bands, Deep Purple, Whitesnake, and Rainbow, all very excellent. They're all sort of rooted in this Deep Purple thing, and that's why Deep Purple is such an important band. But really, outside of that, you really can't go wrong with them. Like, pretty much every other song on Machine Head, particularly Lazy, Highway Star, Space Truckin', can't go wrong with those. Deep Purple are excellent. So, am I going to put this in S tier? The solo in Smoke on the Water has always been my favorite part. I always thought that was very excellent. Again, because Ritchie Blackmore is just amazing. And for that reason, I'm going to put it in S tier. Not to mention, of course, the legacy of the song and whatnot, even though it's kind of a meme nowadays, especially after that whole incident with one of Jared Dine's videos getting blocked because of him not even playing the original song, but just singing the riff with his voice. And it still got blocked for some reason. I have no idea how that fucking works. All that really says to me is that his voice must be really that good at mimicking a guitar tone if the copyright system can pick that up. At least it's not Freebird. We will get to that. Deep Purple, baby. Smoke on the Water should be the true Forbidden Riff and Guitar Centers. I agree. I actually seen them live with Judas Priest. Swell. I'm not sure if Deep Purple would be a band that I would want to see live these days. I mean, Steve Morse is a very good guitarist, and on keyboards they have Don Airey with them. And then other than those two, they have, the classic members. They have Gillan, Glover, and Pace. Jared Dines is the God of Gent, if you say so. I guess as far as YouTube guitarists, I would say, though even then I feel like Pete Cottrell might be better. Jared Dines' voice is a whole guitar. Yes, Smoke on the Water, the one that introduced me to Deep Purple. Not within my top favorite DP songs, but I owe it a lot for exposing me to so many killer songs. Exactly. That's why I can't hate the song. Moving on. Next, we got I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones. A story I gotta tell you about this song. So, when Adam Neely put out his video about the worst jazz solo of all time, where it's literally just a guy playing one note and that's it, I left a comment on the video saying, so this is basically the jazz equivalent of I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones. Because I've always hated that about this song. It's not a bad song, and I do enjoy the Ramones. The song has a catchiness to it. I just hate the solo. It's literally just an open string. It's, they don't even have, he doesn't even have the courtesy of playing the note on the 5th fret of the B string or the 8th fret of the G string. He just does the open string. I can tell it's the open string because there's just no emotion in the dexterity or anything like that. It's just da 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 da. That's like, okay. I mean, yeah, it fits harmonically, but that's really it. So I'm gonna put this in the B tier. Well, they're a punk band anyway. To me, they're like the first real punk band, the first band to really do punk, I would say. Next, what is this? Burning Brides with Heart Full of Black, a song that I really do not care for. I never really liked the song that much in the game, and the song didn't really enthuse me to really look further into this band. It has kind of a generic progression, like G, D, A. It's like, ugh. I've heard that enough. I mean, the chorus, I guess, has kind of a cool riff to it, kind of a surf-sounding thing going for it. But other than that, I really couldn't care less for the song. I don't hate the song, which is why I'm not going to put it in F tier, but I'm going to put it in D tier. The real punk, the father of punk, exactly. Honestly, another thing about like 70s punk, this might be probably controversial, but I've never cared for Sex Pistols or The Clash. I always liked the Ramones so much better than both of them. Everybody's like, oh, the Sex Pistols is the best punk band ever. The Clash is the best punk band ever. Or anything like that. It's like, moving on. Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult. Another song I very much love in this game. The soloing in this is just, ooh. This really definitely enthused me about Blue Oyster Cult. I wouldn't say I love Blue Oyster Cult, but this was definitely a song that really enthused me about them. This is not even my favorite song. My favorite song of theirs, you're going to see later in this series of streams. But Godzilla is, something you really cannot go wrong with. The friggin' shredding from Mr. Buck Dharma. Cannot go wrong with that at all. I'm putting this in the S tier. But here we got another song that also didn't really enthuse me very much. Take It Off by the Donnas. One of a very small number of songs with a female vocalist in this game. This song is also not awful, but it also just, nothing really about it really made me excited at all. Excited to play the song or even listen to it all that much. It's the only song I'm familiar with at all by the Donnas. So shrink this down to 121. And I'm going to put this also in the E tier because I can't really say I hate it at all. They say he's got to go Godzilla. Woo! Next, we got No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age. Another song that introduced me to this band and definitely enthused me to look further into Queens of the Stone Age. I liked the riffing that you hear, the and not to mention, of course, this song is also aided by the fact that Dave Jesus Grohl is playing drums on this. So yeah, and the solo was also pretty cool, pretty crazy sounding for a band that doesn't really do a whole lot of, crazy guitar shreddery and whatnot, by Josh Homme, who's a real homie. So, my favorite song, Queens of the Stone Age, you're also going to be seeing later, but this would definitely, I'd say, be up there. It's a pretty fun song. I'm going to put this in the A tier. Next, a song that I talked about in my most recent video, apart from the joke video I posted today, More Than a Feeling by Boston. Song, it was not ranked super high in the video, but it's still a song I very much love and appreciate and think is great and has a lot going for it. Very emotional sound and so much going for it. Watch my Boston video if you haven't. I'm very, very proud of that video. A lot of heart went into that video, especially the further you get into the video. So I don't think I need to say too much more about the song since I already talked about it enough in that video. I'm gonna put this in the S tier because it's on my favorite album of all time. Next, we got Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth. This might just be the song that really made me interested in metal. Because of all the metal songs in this game, this one was definitely my favorite. I remember being really, really intrigued by the riff, so much to the point that back when I briefly took guitar lessons, it was a riff that I actually wanted to learn. And as a result, yeah, I know the riff quite well. I wish I could play the solo on a real guitar. I wish I could do everything Marty Friedman does. But yeah, the song is awesome. I love it very much. I owe a lot to it, because the root of me getting into metal could probably be traced back to this song. Of all the metal songs in this game, it gets traced back to probably this song. And for that reason, it's a no-duh S tier. Next, we got You Got Another Thing Coming by Judas Priest, another metal song that very much enthused me in the game. Pretty fun to play. I remember thinking the solo friggin' rips. And yeah, definitely enthused me with Judas Priest. This might be like my second favorite metal song after, my second favorite metal song in the game, I should say, after Symphony of Destruction. And this is from my favorite Judas Priest album, Screaming for Vengeance. It's not my favorite Judas Priest song. My favorite Judas Priest song is also on Screaming for Vengeance, and as a song you're going to be seeing later in this series of streams. But you can't go wrong with this song. It's catchy. It's got a ripping solo. As 66 Sama says, it's great! S tier for this. What do we got next? We got Stellar by Incubus. A song I really like from a 90s band that I consider one of my favorites of the decade, and it's from an album that is my second favorite album of 1999 after Scenes from a Memory by Dream Theater, this being Make Yourself by Incubus. This is a great song. Favorite song of theirs, though, is not on that album, nor is it included in a Guitar Hero game, to my knowledge anyway, unless I'm forgetting something. My favorite song of Incubus's would be Dig. But this song is quite good. I've always liked the effects that Mike Einziger used. That's the thing I've always really appreciated about Mike Einziger. As him being like the godfather of like the pedal board effects. So I'm gonna put this one in the A tier, because it's got a bit holding it back from S tier. Yeah, Symphony of Destruction, although popular, is actually an amazing song. And yeah, Megadeth are easily one of my all-time favorite bands, especially the album Rust in Peace. Yeah, Rust in Peace is one of my favorite albums ever, and it's my favorite album of 1990. Is it Living After Midnight by any chance? No, I actually don't really like that song. That song is a bit poppy for my liking. I'm just saying my favorite song from Judas Priest is on a Guitar Hero soundtrack that you're going to be seeing later. It's just not this particular one. Moving on. The very first song in the first tier, and the one song that I was already familiar with before playing the game for the first time. I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. It's another song that everybody knows, and is a song I'm sort of sick of. I can't really say I'm the hugest Joan Jett fan. I always thought she was just kind of... I've always found her to be kind of average as far as, like, 80s hard rock artists go. That, and I'm kind of sick of the song. I don't hate it, but I'm kind of sick of it. But, I'm not going to rank it super low. I'm just going to put it in D tier. It's not below average enough for E tier, and I don't hate it enough to put in F tier. So yeah. I think Incubus was also played in Final Destination 2, more specifically the song Vitamin. Next we got Unsung by Helmet. A song that I consider to be pretty underappreciated, especially on this game. Helmet is actually a very early innovator in alternative metal, and I don't really feel enough credit is really given to them. This is, of course, the song that exposed me to them, a song that has a lot of elements that I remember being really intrigued by my first time playing, whether it be the drum beat at the beginning where it's or, you know, the pretty catchy sounding verse riff. I always really liked that. The rest of the song, I could kind of take or leave, but... Oh, another thing I always really like, after the first chorus where the drum's like... It's great. The rest of the song I could kind of take or leave. The ending part, I kind of find to be a bit boring, but other than that, song's pretty awesome. And Meantime is definitely an album worth checking out. I'm putting this in the A tier. Unsung, as for me, I have GTA San Andreas to thank for introducing me to that song in the band. Next, got Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand. This is the only song I really like from Franz Ferdinand. I've never really been all that crazy about them. I've listened to some other songs of them, but they just didn't really enthuse me the way that Take Me Out did. It's catchy. It's got a very memorable riff. I remember that really sticking with me early on when I was playing the game for the first time. And the lyrics are kind of pathetic sounding, but also kind of charming and whatnot. That's why I just can't hate the song at all. I'm just not really all that enthused by Franz Ferdinand. This is just the only song I really care about from them. And for that reason, I'm going to put this in the B tier. Next, we got Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group, a song that I featured in my favorite instrumental songs video. Pretty high in that video, because it's a very memorable instrumental with a very memorable riff, and a bunch of soloing from a multitude of different instruments and whatnot. That's the thing that I always really loved about this song. Especially in parts... One thing I found really interesting about the version in this game, the cover version, is the part where there's like a pull-off portion. I'm not sure if he's tapping that. It kind of sounds like a synth in the game, and it actually made me think of friggin' intergalactic outer space stuff. And it's, of course, aided by that weird spaceship-sounding sound effect. That whole thing that I highlighted in the video. It's a fun song. Love it a lot. I, of course, got to put this in the S tier. Next, what do we got? We got another song that didn't really leave much of an impression on me. Hey You by the X's. It's an alright song. Got a pretty nice chorus, definitely. But this was never a band that I was all that enthused to look further into, really. Nothing really beyond this one song. Kind of similar to what I said about Franz Ferdinand. Is, you know, all they really have going for them is just this. And it's a pretty cool sounding song, but I've never really just been that interested in looking more into this band. I'm sure they got some other good material, but I'm going to put this in the B tier. Because I'd much rather... I'd for sure listen to it over the lower tier ones. The first time I really remember hearing Frankenstein was in YTP Deep Frying Nemo from Emp Lemon. Swell. You know I love Emp. He's one of my senpais on YouTube. Yeah. And in some of his videos, I've heard him play an 8-bit version of Frankenstein, which is kind of neat, but like 8-bit is 8-bit. Next, we got Cowboys from Hell by Pantera. Another song that I remember enthusing me a good bit. It's quite fun. Pretty cool riff that I've always really liked. Solo I always thought was really great. Not my favorite Pantera song, but it's from my favorite album of theirs, which is, of course, Cowboys from Hell. Honestly, when it comes to Pantera, you know, I really wish this song was included in a Guitar Hero soundtrack. Friggin' Cemetery Gates. It's one of the best songs of all time. I love that song so very much. But as far as, you know, the title track from that album goes, can't go wrong with that at all. You know, it's a head turner, and it's a groovy one. So this also has to go in S. I'm gonna run out of room here. I hope I. How much do I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 more. I doubt they're all going to be S tiers, but hopefully, you know, it doesn't become an issue for me. One of my all-time favorite albums of all time. That's a very redundant sounding sentence. Yeah, especially Domination, The Art of Shredding, Message in Blood are just pure awesome. Of course, Cowboys from Hell is great. It's awesome. Another one of my favorites of 1990. Next, we got the song that I would consider probably the most difficult in the main set list in the final tier. It's Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne. Another one of my favorites from Ozzy. A song that when I saw Ozzy with Space Metal back in 2018, he opened with this song, and we were kind of late getting in, so we missed him playing this, and I was pretty bummed about that. But this is great. Bark at the Moon, the album, is my second favorite after No More Tears. And thing you love about this, Jake Lee friggin' rips on this. And this song in particular, like, he just goes nuts. And that's what makes this song so freaking crazy. And it's also just pretty fun and fast and has a good bit going for it. That's why it's one of my favorites. From the Prince of Darkness. S tier, baby. Jake Lee is my personal favorite Ozzy guitarist. Honestly, I would say same. Honestly, I don't feel Jake Lee gets nearly as much love as Randy Rhoads or Zakk Wylde. I love them both, but Jake Lee, and honestly, while Jake Lee is on my mind, if you have not listened to this band, listen to the band that Jake Lee formed after he left Ozzy's band, Badlands. The 2 albums that they put out are very good bluesy hair metal, especially the first album. It's a fun listen. And Badlands is a very underrated band. And if you like Jake Lee, you should probably listen to that band. And of course, you know, he's got Red Dragon Cartel right now, which is pretty good. Not bad. Bark at the Moon so much, yes. Love Randy and Zakk, but wow. Yeah, like, honestly, I feel Ozzy really lucked out. Like, if you're going to replace a guy like Randy Rhoads, you really lucked out with him. Next, we got Infected by Bad Religion. Another one of my favorites in, like, classic hardcore and whatnot. I've always had an appreciation for Bad Religion and their material. Infected, I wouldn't say is among my favorites from them. My favorite from Bad Religion would be Sorrow from Process of Belief. But Infected has a charm to it, I guess. Especially when you consider, like, the time that this album came out. This was, like, 94, I think. Either 94 or 93 when Stranger Than Fiction came out. But it's an alright song. I dig it fine. I'm going to put this in the B tier. Next, we got Cochise by Audioslave. A song that I didn't care that much for my first time playing the game. I thought the song was kind of repetitive and all that. But at the same time, though, the riff is pretty cool sounding. The riffs, I should say. And the sort of short solo break in there is pretty neat sounding. Though I have heard better from Audioslave. And I mentioned this in my What's Wrong With on Rage Against the Machine. How I later found out after getting into Rage that Tom Morello, Tim Comerford, and Brad Wilk played in this band as well, with Chris Cornell, may God rest his soul, on vocals. And it really made me grow to appreciate Audioslave a lot more, especially when I listened to more songs of theirs. So I definitely have an appreciation for Cochise, but my favorite song of theirs, I would say, is probably Be Yourself. I'm going to put this in the A tier. Happy late birthday, Chris Cornell. Oh my God, that's right. Because it was not that long ago. It was like a couple months ago when the anniversary of his death. And of course, when Chester Bennington took his life, it was like on Chris Cornell's birthday, which is kind of cryptic and whatnot because the two of them were very close and whatnot. That's the thing I found kind of strangely beautiful about Chester Bennington's death, is that it had a very kind of beautiful kind of tie-in to Chris Cornell. So, yeah, rest in peace to both of them. Next, we got a song from another May God Rest His Soul artist, Motorhead, with Ace of Spades. Pretty rippin' song, though I can't really say I'm the biggest Motorhead fan. They got some good material, and Another Perfect Day is definitely my favorite album of theirs. And this song definitely is influential. It's fast and has a pretty rippin' solo and a fast-sounding riff and whatnot. And it's, of course, a cool song to jam out to if you ever go to Vegas and all that. Which, that'd be pretty cool to do and meet up with Thrash Metal Guru. I can't really say I love Motorhead as much as a lot of people like to say. They're a band I respect more than I like. But Lemmy, I would definitely say, is definitely a great character in the metal world. And definitely someone you can't go wrong with. A very iconic sounding voice as well. I'm going to put this song, for that reason, in the A tier. I'm still stunned that he's gone. So many grunge vocalists left us way too soon, of course. Right now, as far as like grunge goes, I think all we really have is just Pearl Jam and Smashing Pumpkins. And not much else. And it would be crazy news to hear if either Billy Corgan or Eddie Vedder died. Next, we got Higher Ground by the Red Hot Chili Peppers version, which is, of course, a cover from Stevie Wonder. I was already listening to the Chili Peppers by the time I heard this song in the game. I just wasn't familiar with this particular song. I'd already owned Californication, and this was kind of around the time I had first listened to Stadium Arcadium, and it's for that reason that it took me a bit to really appreciate older Chili Peppers, but then once I listened to Blood Sugar Sex Magic, that's when I started to really get a feel for it as well, and then I appreciated this a lot more. Of course, this has a very iconic and memorable slap bass line, and I love this a lot more than I did. Of course, since Chili Peppers are one of my favorite bands, that helps as well. I'm going to put this in the S tier. I only really wish it had more going on in the guitar. like there was a solo and whatnot, because all it really has is just the. It's fun. It's just, kind of leaves you wanting more. That's a feeling I remember having back then. And on the topic of Red Hot Chili Peppers, welcome back to John Frusciante, baby. I hope that they're working on some new music with him, because I would be very, very, very much excited for that. A lot more excited than I was for either I'm With You or The Getaway. Moving on. Next we got... Come on, fast scroll. Next we got Killer Queen by Queen. Another song that kind of confused me my first time playing it in the game. This was my first exposure to Queen, of course. And it's another song I grew to really love more and more as time went on, and I got more of a feel for Queen, because I didn't really know much about Queen other than the fact that We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions were both by Queen. And this is the only other thing that I knew from Queen. This was before I heard Bohemian Rhapsody, before I heard Somebody to Love, before I heard Hammer to Fall, before I heard Brighton Rock, before I heard any of these other wonderful and cool Queen songs that are just great. Queen are just one of the greatest bands to ever exist, and once you sort of listen to those other songs and then sort of hear those elements in Killer Queen, you get more of an appreciation for the vocals and the various guitar stuff, the various guitar parts going on. It's not as heavy of a song, but it's got a groove to it, it's got a charm to it, and, of course, for those reasons, it's cool. Love it. Another one of these extended S tiers over here. Guaranteed to blow your mind. And another topic of Killer Queen by Queen. If any of you watch Diamond X Studios, who is the music reviewer who did that big collab, big charity shout-out collab where when talking in his worst songs of 2019 video about Earth by Lil Dicky, and I appeared in there and I promoted my friend's band Shakeout. If any of you watch him, he did a top 10 video for the year 1975, and this song was on the list, and he talked about the song as if Queen is just this band that nobody's heard of, and I'm like, and my comment on that video, I was like, holy fuck, all of my years as a ride or die rocker, and I've never heard of this Queen band. They have just the sound that I think I've been missing and all I've been listening to. So thanks for exposing me to this band, Sean. I really appreciate you. Love that guy. Up next, got 3 more. Wow. Kind of blazing through this. We got Crossroads by Cream. Another song that I remember really enthused me a lot for having a very lengthy and cool sounding solo, and quite fun to listen to. You know, that's why I have an appreciation for Eric Clapton, even though he might not necessarily be a guitarist I consider a favorite. You know, with something like this it's also why of all of Eric Clapton's bands, Cream would be my favorite of them among Yardbirds and Blind Faith and Derek and the Dominoes and him solo. Cream is my favorite there as far as his music goes. So I'm going to put this... I'm going to put it in the A tier, A, because the S tier is getting crowded, and B, because for as much as the solo really enthused me, it didn't enthuse me in the way Texas Flood did. What is this? we got Iron Man by Black Sabbath, another one of Baby's first guitar riffs. And it's a song that I remember definitely enthusing me my first time hearing it. I thought it was like the heaviest thing in existence. I was thinking to myself, oh my god, this is freaking loud and cool and really big sounding, especially with just how slow the riff is combined with the dynamics. Bow, down, bow, down, bow. It sounds awesome to you as a kid, but but I'd be lying if I were to say it didn't sour on me a little bit. But you know, the other parts of the song I don't really feel are really given enough credit. I always like the really kind of gloomy sound of the, I guess this is what you'd call the chorus riff, the do 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 do. And the solo is pretty alright sounding too. My favorite Black Sabbath song, that would be the titular song, Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, from the album Black Sabbath. I always thought that was kind of gloomier and creepier, has a cooler solo, and is a bit more interesting. But yeah, Iron Man is Iron Man. I'm going to put this in the A tier. Last one. This would be Spanish Castle Magic by Jimi Hendrix. This is another kind of interesting thing about the version in the game. The version in the game is an instrumental. It doesn't have Jimmy's vocals, which is why I remember when I listened to the original recording for the first time and I'm hearing vocals and I'm like, wait, there's vocals in this? Because my dumb kid mind thought that this was an instrumental song. Because if it was, it'd be a pretty cool instrumental song. Pretty rippin' solo, but because of course there's a rippin' solo. It's Jimi fucking Hendrix. I've always liked him as a guitarist more than I do a vocalist. That's another thing that I feel kind of dragged it down, but not in a really terrible way. But there's definitely a lot to be appreciated about this song. I don't think it gets nearly as much love as other songs that people tend to kind of overblow with his, like, friggin' Purple Haze and Voodoo Child. Though I love Voodoo Child. This song has, like, an interesting kind of flavor to it. Kind of a Spanish flavor, honestly. But yeah, it's cool. Like it a good bit. And so I gotta put it in the already crowded S tier. So that's what we got for our final list. We got a bunch of S tiers, a good few A tiers, a few B tiers, and then only really a couple songs I'd consider real duds and whatnot in the soundtrack anyway. I suppose I can also talk a bit about the bonus songs. Just allow me to go to Wikipedia. List of songs in Guitar Hero. My favorite of the bonus songs, All of This by Seamus. That's a pretty fun one. Behind the Mask by Anarchy Club. Anarchy Club is one of my favorite bonus song bands that I got into through Guitar Hero. The Breaking Wheel by Artillery. I've always been unsure if this is the same 80s thrash band Artillery. I've never been sure, but that's a pretty cool instrumental. Sheet on the Church by Graveyard Barbecue is a pretty alright and pretty creepy sounding bonus song. I never really liked the vocals in that song, though. The guitar I always felt kind of overshadowed it. Decontrol by Drist. Drist is another very cool band that I have Guitar Hero to thank for having a bonus song included in it. The bonus song that Drist had on Guitar Hero 2, Arterial Black, that would be my favorite from Drist. And the whole reason that Drist is even on this is because one of the guitarists that recorded the, cover versions included in the game, Marcus Henderson, that's his band. Fire It Up by Black Label Society, another, very cool one. And this is, of course, how I got exposed to Black Label Society and how I first learned who Zakk Wylde was before I even learned that he had played with Ozzy Osbourne. This was also kind of interesting because in the game, when you play the song, the character is actually playing a Zakk Wylde guitar. I always found that to be a kind of a cool nod to the man. A lot of, cool shredding and riffs and all that. My favorite Black Label Society song would have to be Suicide Messiah from the same album that this is from. Why am I blanking on the name of this album? Mafia. Get Ready to Rock by Freeze Pop. Interesting sounding song with some pretty crazy playing in there for a synth poppy rock band. Guitar Hero by Monkey Steals the Peach, I think, was a song probably written for this game. I think it might have been supposed to be the theme song for it. I don't know. Hey by Honest Bob and the Factory to Dealer Incentives, with the longest fucking band name I've ever heard of, apart from World is a Beautiful Place and I'm Not Afraid to Die. I like this song kind of fine. I think it's actually my favorite, from Honest Bob. And those are my favorite of the bonus songs. But yeah, anyway, let me catch up with the chat. Iron Man, a song that isn't about Iron Man, not the superhero, but I'm sure people probably have a headcanon that it is. Another funny story about Iron Man is when I first learned about Iron Maiden, I always thought that their band name was supposed to be a parody of the song Iron Man. Funny enough, I loved Iron Man by Black Sabbath way before I got into metal. I'm here, but my computer's being a dick. Hopefully you can look back on all the fun that we had, because I know I've been telling you about my idea for this stream, Space Metal, because you and I talk about Guitar Hero a lot with each other. I wouldn't be surprised if Iron Man was a contender for the heaviest song in existence upon its release back in 1970. It probably was. Either that or the title track Black Sabbath. Either of those I could easily see people saying that about at the time. I'm more of NIB myself. That's a pretty good song. I just FC'd Smoke on the Water yesterday on GH1. Leaves me with 28 songs to FC on Expert. Excuse me while I kiss this guy. I remember making a Facebook post saying that... actually, no, I think this wasn't in 2015 when gay marriage became legalized, because I remember seeing this in my Facebook memories. It was around the time of Pride Month where I made a post saying, in honor of Pride Month, I'm just going to say, excuse me while I kiss this guy, because it's a very funny misheard lyric. Get Ready to Rock is my favorite of the bonus songs, which is unusual since I'm not super ultra massive on electronic, the same degree I am with all the sorts of metal subgenres. That's what makes Freeze Pop so interesting. The fact that they combine synth pop with rock. Now that I'm done with the tier list, I'm going to export as to desktop GH1 tier list. Export. Now I can go back to the main window. And yeah. Before Iron Man came along, I would say Helter Skelter, the Beatles, would be the heaviest song ever. I can see that. A lot of people, I've seen some people say that Helter Skelter was the first metal song. I can see where they're coming from. Not sure if I agree with them, but I can easily see people saying that at the time. So yeah. This was a fun tier list, and I'm looking forward to doing the one for Guitar Hero 2, which I imagine is going to be even crazier than this one. A, because I like the soundtrack a lot better, and B, because the soundtrack is much bigger than the first one. I'm not going to do it. I don't think I want to do it right now. I kind of want to make it its own separate thing. But be on the lookout for that soon. I doubt there's going to be that much of a wait between this. I'm probably going to zip through these over the course of this week or so, or maybe next week, depending on how much I feel like getting it done. I don't want to rush it either and force it or anything like that either. That's another thing I really don't like doing. But rest assured, I do plan on doing tier lists for 2, 3, and Rock the 80s. I don't know if I'm going to do 4. Maybe I'll do one for Rock Band 1 or 2 if you guys are interested in that. But that's what I feel like doing as far as these Guitar Hero tier list streams. Because it makes for a fun story times where I talk about the songs and my history with the songs and my relationship with the band nowadays and how that's changed and all that. Gives you a chance to learn more about me and the music nerd that I would grow to become over time. Because, as I've said on my channel a number of times, I owe Guitar Hero a lot for really influencing my music taste and exposing me to a lot of the bands that I know nowadays. Because prior to Guitar Hero, I didn't really have much of a music taste beyond the Beatles, Green Day, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Songs About Jane by Maroon 5, and some select songs that I would hear on the radio and whatnot.
A few moments later.
And since I think we're getting close to the 2-hour mark, and just in like 20 more minutes it'll be the 2-hour mark, and because I'd like to get to, making some food soon, I'm going to cut the stream now. I don't know if I'll come back tomorrow for the Guitar Hero 2 tier list, or if that'll be like the next day or the day after that. But I would like to do it soon. So be on the lookout for that. So thank you for watching this. Thank you for hanging here. Take care and have a good rest of your evening. I'm Shades, and I'll see you next time.